Well, what a beautiful night it is out tonight. The sun is still. I guess that's the good thing, right? Is that we don't have the sun going down and it's dark at 6:30 p.m. Actually, go back to that shot, Parker. Parker's going to show us the sun outside. All right, there we go. Outside right now. So, Alexa, what time is sunset tonight in Toronto?
Toronto's local sunset will be at 7:37.
So 7:37, the sun is going down. Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 6 of our coping with COVID from my apartment. And, you know, the nice thing is I can work in bare feet. That's kind of nice. How's everybody doing? Elephant in the room, eye infection. I have an eye infection. I told you about this a couple of days ago. I have finally called the doctor. But with the way things are right now, I probably can't get a prescription until tomorrow or maybe even Monday. So he's on it right now. That's good. Are we on the air? Are we up? I think there we go. Okay, I just wanted to find out. I'm having a lot of technical problems today. Is Mercury in retrograde or something like that? I'm not sure. Anyway, I am so thrilled that she is back. Dr. Katy Kamkar joins me right now from her home as well. Hi, Katy. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, Kevin. How are you?
Well, other than this eye infection, which is it looks worse than it is. But I'm asking myself, if I can't protect myself from an eye infection and I'm washing my hands like crazy all the time, what chance do I have against protecting myself from COVID?
I know, right? And then, of course, with all those thoughts, more anxiety and worries, right?
I want people to understand right here and right now that we are doing the right thing by isolating. You're hearing so many different things and so much talk about we're overreacting and the media is making more out of this. No, we need to do this. And I'm going to tell you too, Katy, I want people to only get their information from one site, and that is the World Health Organization site. I've gone to so many sites. Everybody has so much different information. The World Health Organization is factual. It's where you should go. It's who.int. But we are doing the right thing, right, Katy?
Definitely. And I think that, as you mentioned, following up with the credible website and sources to get the best informed, well-informed information would be very key right now, especially that it's so easy to be bombarded by so many diverse information. So very hard to tell what to do, what not to do. That can easily add into the inherent already stress and anxiety that we all going through.
All right. And I have tonight, I have a glass of wine with me tonight. So I hope everybody grab some wine or grab a beer or grab some tea, maybe a decaf coffee if it keeps you awake, and let's sit down. Let's just keep each other company for a while. And I know that we have a lot of people who have a lot of questions. And Katy, tell me a little bit about who you are. You are a psychologist. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm a clinician. I, of course, also do research as well, but I'm a clinical psychologist at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, CAMH. So CAMH is the largest mental health and addiction research and teaching hospital in Canada, and certainly one of the largest in the world, and especially dealing with mood and anxiety, workplace-related stressors, occupational health and safety, and of course a lot of work in terms of trauma, police and first responders. I'm also assistant professor within the Department of Psychiatry, University of Toronto. I'm involved in a variety of community projects, provincially, nationally, internationally, and also I'm the executive director of the Canadian Association of Fire Investigators.
Oh, okay. Is that all? You wear many, many, many hats. First of all, let's say hi to Darlene from Newfoundland. Say hi from your friends in Newfoundland. We're getting some people watching us out east. Don is joining us, drinking a beer this morning. Everyone's saying cheers. So we're here to keep you company. The whole idea of this program every night is to be positive, to give you some good information, and to really remind you we're doing the right thing, and to remind you that we are not alone. Now, just before we were talking a little bit earlier before we went on, Katy, about a process here that is becoming more and more clear, and that is the fact that we are actually going through some of the stages of grief.
Yes, yes. And thank you very much for really mentioning that, right? And we know that grief has different stages, variety of emotions, but this here is grief at so many different level. And you know what was interesting, Kevin? I saw someone on social media, one of our Toronto police inspector, he said, now I'm realizing that I can't remember word by word what he said. He said, I think I'm missing the traffic in Toronto. So
Well,
essentially, it goes to show we are missing, it's a loss from little things in life. I want to wear my favorite clothes. I want to wear my favorite jewelry. I want to go to my favorite coffee store and coffee to, of course, dealing with illness and death. People really dealing with death as a result of the virus. And so it goes very much on the continuum. So there is a lot of grief, a lot of loss to process. We do know that initially there was a tremendous amount of anxiety and worries, and of course all the uncertainty, which are all very present. But now is as we're going through the adjustment, there is of course sadness as well involved. I think that yes, we do know that it is temporary. It's not going to, but we do know this is not going to be something that is going to be overnight. Not even in a month. So we do need to exert, we do need essentially to build our tolerance, our patience, and very much our acceptance. And acceptance is key. Acceptance doesn't mean that I like what I'm going through, that I enjoy or I prefer it. It's just that it is part of the reality, and that's how best we can adjust to it.
And we've heard those different stages of grief before. There's anger, questioning, et cetera, which and it finally ends with acceptance. So we're going through these, and maybe it would help people to recognize this, and maybe what stage they're in. How close to acceptance are people? You're going to feel better once you get to acceptance.
And you're right about this, Kevin. The other thing also is that there is no set order. So we can go to acceptance and then essentially go back to denial as well again, right? So there is no set order. So we can go through all the set of stages and then go back and then come back. And essentially, a lot of us again still feel that it is surreal, that essentially it's like we can't believe it. So it is again that stage as we can't believe this is happening, and at the same time we know it is true. There is anxiety. At the same time, it is sadness. The next day could be more sadness, etc., etc. And it's important to normalize those. It's normal. Our daily life and routine has been shattered. We all have to get adjusted. A lot of other stressors.
And I want to get used. Okay, routine. I've got quite a few comments about routine, and I'd like to get your take on them right now. So Lynn says routines and structure are hard to keep. And Lynn, I can commiserate with you on that one. I agree. Today I was going to have a routine. I was going to have something to eat. I was going to go out for a long, long walk. I was going to meditate. I was going to do this. I didn't seem to get to anything. What's happening when we have all this time? And we know we have things to do, and routine is important. What's happening in our minds when we can't keep that routine?
Some part of it, and I really like her question and what she's talking about. And it's very important, as also you echoed that, for her to know she's not alone. That's probably most people do experience that. Yes, routine and structure, very important. And also, as you mentioned, yes, we do need to schedule activities. So I'm going to wake up, I can do my stretching, I'm going to have a healthy breakfast, I can go out maybe for 20-minute walk, come back, and then do the reading, etc., etc. So we need to schedule those. One thing that would be helpful is, you see, this is the other thing that we might be lacking as well, right? Some people are lacking, some people are not. If you have something that is scheduled, for example, you do know that you do need to take care of a work teleconference call, let's say, from home. If you can schedule that maybe as early as you can during the day, then it's best, because you do know then you have to wake up at this time. You need to get ready have your breakfast, maybe a little bit of exercise, and be ready for that work teleconference. And then it's easier to have the rest of the activities throughout the day. So it's often the first activity that is the hardest. Now, here's the thing. There is something called the 5-minute rule, Kevin. Have you ever heard of
No,
the 5-minute rule?
what's the 5-minute rule?
So the 5-minute rule is really around, okay, two things that come into my mind. The first thing is the 5-minute rule is anything we don't feel like doing, and especially if we feel that, oh, the target is 1 hour, of course we're going to back up. It's going to feel overwhelming. I want to back up. I don't want to do it. We target 5 minutes. It's like, you know what? I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. If I do not want to after 5 minutes, that's fine. I can close the file, the chapter, the cooking, whatever I want to do, and I can move on.
So you're saying instead of saying, you know what, I don't feel like doing this, but you know what, I'm going to do it anyway, at least for 5 minutes.
Exactly. And more often than not, what happens is that once the same phenomenon again, you start the car, you start the engine, then it gets easier and easier, and chances are very high that we just continue. So first thing in the morning is just really around, you know what, 5 minutes. I'm going to get up, wash my face, cold water, it could be shower, whatever routine that we have, right? Coffee and so on. If it's not working out, then I can come back. But more often than not, again, we can work on that. The other thing is details count. Any little thing counts. So for example, I'm going to be very concrete example. There is a chapter that you do know it is very important to read tomorrow, but we are afraid we're going to procrastinate, or we're going to leave it for later. As I mentioned before, it's little steps. I'm going to take the book from my back. I'm going to leave it on the desk, and I'm going to open it. And so the next morning, visually, one thing whenever we are able to see something visually also, the fact that even that first step was done, we might think is minimal, but that is definitely a very significant step that once again helps the engine going.
Okay, excuse me. Donna, and Donna, our thoughts and prayers are with you, Donna. I lost my husband in October to cancer, so now I'm going through 2 forms of grief. And what is interesting about that is now people are talking to Donna on our comments and sending them their condolences and their thoughts. So we're even, you know what, just being here right now, you're with a group. You are together with someone. You are doing something. So Donna, all of our thoughts are with you. Susan says, it's interesting putting a label on how I am feeling makes me feel better. I never knew that I was experiencing grief. And it's very true. When you're dealing with any sort of mood disorder or depression or anxiety, when you know what it is, it goes a long way to helping you deal with it rather than saying, I don't know what the heck I'm feeling this way for.
That's very true. First of all, is really my heart also goes out to Donna. And Donna, thank you so much for joining us. And we all this together. You're not alone. And thank you for really being with us. And we're all here for you. You're right. Whenever there is any name for it, any label for it, what it does, it validates us. And that's what's more beautiful in life than feeling validated. So it's like saying, oh, what I'm feeling is kind of known. There is a name for it. I'm not making that up. People will hear me. People will accept it. We are feeling less judged. And also the fact that it is acknowledged it provides less uncertainty, therefore less worry and less anxiety. So once we have whatever it is, the label name for it, then like, okay, that's great. What do I do now?
Mm-hmm. And people are loving the 5-minute thing. They're loving that.
Yeah, I practice it myself too. That 5-minute rule, I love that.
Then at least
we need to give tons of exercises, Kevin. A lot of exercises.
Yeah, well, you need to feel you would feel a little bit accomplished anyway. Okay, let's get to it. Let's get to a few other questions as well, and I want to address them to you. Let's talk about this one for parents too, and that is, how do I talk to my kids about this? You're trying to put a brave face on. Do you tell them you're scared? Do you tell them it's going to be? How do you tell them it's going to be okay if maybe you don't believe it yourself?
This is such an important question, and everyone wonders that. There is also the CAMH.ca website on COVID-19, great pamphlet information that has been developed, including around how to navigate better in terms of children, what to say, not to say, and so on. So that's always a great resource as well. I think what's important to keep in mind is every single person is different, every family is different, every household is different, every child is different. Also depending on the child's age, developmental level, and all of those. So we do need to keep that in mind because there's no one recipe for all. So that's always, so that flexibility to keep, it's important to keep in mind. Children are definitely able to pick up things more than we know, more than we are able to realize. So they realize things have changed. They're going to have questions around, well, I'm not going to school. Why is it I cannot go out as much? Why is it now I cannot go to the park? So once again, depending on all the variables that I have just mentioned, parents can tell to a certain extent, of course, what's going on, the reality of what's going on. Exactly. Yes, there's a virus going on. It is dangerous. We are told to do this. So again, the information, it's important to share the information. Once again, we need to adjust it. We need to be flexible depending on the child and age and everything. The other aspect is that children, adults need it, let alone children. Children, they need even more so the sense of safety and security and comfort, the love and the support. Very important. So when we share any information, at the same time, we want to provide that sense of security and comfort and love and support, that predictability. Very important. Now, of course, parents experience their own anxiety. They can talk about it as well, normalizing it, expressing the emotions, because it's our children that we learn that, oh, it's normal and it's healthy for me to be able to verbalize my thoughts, verbalize my emotions, to put them into perspective. Now, at the same time, we also know that as parents, it's also, we do want to practice regulating our emotions and engaging in healthy coping and healthy behaviors, because our children also model our behaviors. So we do want to be also then, as healthy as possible role models.
Shannon says, I'm very open and honest with my son. He is actually listening with us. I am mindful of his feelings, but respect. He also deserves honesty. And we as parents sometimes are wondering, well, if we just, the kids don't need to know right now, or I don't want to scare them. But at the same time, they're hearing things through their own social media. And again, as you said, depending on their age. So yeah, I agree with you, Shannon, being honest with our kids, but also being positive. We're doing this because we're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting other people as well. And there was a woman earlier here who's going back to work. I want to go back a bit. She's been off for a bit, but she's going back. She's in the healthcare field and she's nervous. It's way back up there, and I'm sorry I can't get back to it. But, we're doing it for her. We're doing it for other people as well. So we're doing what we should be doing. And as long as we do this and other people do this, then it will be okay.
Very true. And here also, we do know we are going through this difficult time, and children, they learn this as adults. They will be able to say, yes, I have gone through this difficult time. This is how my family coped. This is how our country coped. I learned from this. So it's part of us becoming resilient as well. So resiliency is an ongoing process. And it's important for children to learn as of now all the resiliency, all the healthy coping and so on. And they will learn in terms of, yes, we were struck by this difficult time and that's what we did. And yes, it did work. And this is what I learned. These are the things that, there was a lot of trial and errors. There were mere errors and mistakes that were made. However, we were able to adjust to it and learn from it. That's part of growth, our own learning, self-learning, and developmental growth.
And someone just reminded me that it was Janice who was going back to work. So Janice, our thoughts are with you. And everybody, we are responsible for taking care of Janice and other healthcare workers by obeying this social isolation. And please don't give in to this, it's all media hype and it's all, we're overkill. No, it's not. So please, we need to take care of Janice. And my son, this is Shannon. My son is shaking his head. Yes. Hi, Shannon. What's your son's name? My son is shaking his head. Yes, we are doing it for everyone. He's 10 years old. So I'm glad you're listening with us as well, Shannon's son. She's just going to quickly send me his name. So we'll give him a hello. Hold on.
And also, I would like to thank, and I think all of us, thank Shannon for what she's doing.
Definitely. All right. Well, I'm waiting for that name. Let's go to another question. And this is a good question. How can I support someone who is very anxious? So now it could be a child, but it could be a spouse. It could be a brother, sister. It could be a son. It could be just someone you're living with who's very scared. Maybe they have depression. How do you deal with someone who's very, very anxious? Because they can make you, it's contagious. Being anxious and stressful is contagious. You could catch it. So what do you do?
I mean, you're right. It's contagious. You're right about that. I mean, first of all, with any symptoms, if we do know that the symptoms increase over time, create distress, and interfere or impair our functioning, then it's always important to seek professional help, right? So when we're talking about it, works on a continuum, but if it is quality social support and self-care are extremely important, but if it comes to the point that the anxiety is so high that is not alleviating over time and is interfering with the person's day-to-day maybe activities, and the level of functioning, professional help is very important. But what would be helpful, so if it's not also or concurrent with this, is what's very helpful is definitely being there with the person to provide the quality support and to listen. Listening provides tremendous help. And also, as we discussed before, to engage in whatever shared activities that could be possible. So keeping in mind that anxiety works from head to toe. We need to look at the cognitive symptoms related to anxiety. So what are the thoughts, the anxious thoughts, especially the what if questions? What if this and what if that? These are all normal questions, the what if. The problem with the what if is that as soon as we start asking one what if question, it can open the door to other 1,000 what if questions. So maybe the first what if question might have been realistic. The next thing you know, after the 1,000 what if, we might end up on another planet. So it's really around catching that first what if question and put it into perspective right away. So catching our thought, put it into perspective. So this is the cognitive component of anxiety. Then we have the physiological symptoms of anxiety, right? All the physical symptoms. So that's why thought processes, when we are able to change our thoughts, it also has an impact on what we do, what we do not do, and our physiological responses. But that's why self-care in terms of healthy diet, exercise, seeking support, the cognitive work that we do can be tremendously helpful. And then also, in addition to that, all the healthy coping, right? So they are, that's also something that coping could be helpful maybe in one context, and in another context it can be defined differently and it's not helpful anymore. So that's also something else.
Okay, the young gentleman's name who is watching with his mom is Leland. So I want to say hi to Leland and speak directly to Leland and to other kids who are out there. And we talk so much about parents taking care of kids, and I want the kids to realize that sometimes parents need to be taken care of too. Sometimes they get scared. Sometimes they get fearful. Sometimes they're worried about you. So whatever you can do to help mom and dad, every once in a while say, hey, it's going to be okay. You know what? It's going to be okay. I know it will be. That goes a long way. It shows how mature you are, but it also helps your parents, because we also need help and encouragement once in a while as well. We're only human. So to any of the kids out there, you got to be strong for your parents as well. So hello to Leland and any of the other kids who are watching us right now. Okay, let's go to another question here. How about, this is a good one. How do I deal with a person who is a COVID doomsayer? So these are the people that watch the news 24/7, who get all the conspiracy theories from their Facebook news feeds and then pass it on to you and say how this was just a plot, or we're all going to be in isolation for 3 or 4 years. How do you deal with someone who's constantly doing this?
I think that first of all, watching everything, getting our information through credible websites and credible sources, that's definitely number one. Number two is really setting a healthy boundary between how much are we gonna watch the news and getting information versus also setting time for meaningful activities. Now, everyone is very different, and also everyone's tolerance level is different, but our tolerance level also changes over time as well. So it could be today I can tolerate 20 minutes, tomorrow I can tolerate 4 hours. So that's also, so keeping into mind all of those variables, we do want to set a healthy balance. I think that it is when into extreme cases, that is the constant overload of information, the anxiety can really spike, and then it can also change and have an influence on our thoughts and our belief system, and we might be more vulnerable to maybe overestimate the threat, estimate the risk, and lose essentially our hope and or any optimistic outlook.
Perfect. I'm sorry, I was just answering a couple of comments as well at the same time. So I'm doing triple duty here. And I'm the director, I'm the audio person, things like that, and Parker is my crew, my only crew. Okay, I was just passing on to people. I just please like and thank this. Please like and share this video, and hopefully we'll get it to other people too who definitely need it. All right, Katy, there are people who are alone out there. There are people who, after the kids go to bed, are alone. How do you deal with loneliness while in isolation?
It's so difficult, right? Thankfully we have technology. So it could be anything essentially. Text, email, phone call, Skype, FaceTime, anything that, sometimes in the day it could be 5 minutes talking to someone could be enough. The next day it could be that no, I need to talk to maybe two people, 30 minutes here, 20 minutes there, etc., etc. So reaching out, keeping in touch is tremendously helpful. The other thing also is that they are, increasingly we hear of different community events or even classes that are now done online. And so people can join now a lot of the groups, a lot of the online work and so on that are being done, community events that are being done. So I think it might also be very helpful to schedule those so that they can participate in those social events or in those classes and training, anything that they are, that they can. I have even Canada, some people have told me there are some, let's say, specific dancing classes now that the teachers provide, let's say, for free online. So variety of things to reach out and using the technology.
Okay, and I want to address one that just came across here. Zubia. I'm trying to be strong for them, but there are times when I'm so panicked, so worried, even start crying. I'm very stressed. My anxiety levels are so high. My husband works out of town. I have two girls, 11 and 6. Zubia, you're not alone, okay? If we can do anything here, it's just to pass on to you what strength we can through this medium. There are everybody who's listening right now, watching right now, can you put in the comments strength to Zubia? All right, Zubia needs some strength right now. We need to be here for each other. So Zubia, you are not alone. So when those times come when you just want to break down and cry, you know what? It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. It's like honestly like being afraid of flying. You're sitting there in the seat and you're shaking when it takes off. But really, there's nothing you can do about it now, and you're going to be okay. You're going to get to your destination. We're going to get to our destination. We're going to do it together. It's more pesky than anything else that we are isolated, and try and keep it that way, and try and use the time wisely. That's what a lot of people are really telling me too, Katy, is use that time wisely.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's interesting, especially last week where most of us have felt that the drastic change in our life. And a lot of people made the comment how they felt that it was one of the longest week that they had to go through. I know even people whom the workload really reduced, and then they thought A lot of us actually felt this way, that we thought, okay, well, you can actually catch up on a lot of other things. And everyone felt almost that we felt overwhelmed. Forget even catching up about other things, even difficulty catching up with current things going on, current duties and responsibilities, and so on. Even though seemingly it felt that we had more time. So you're right. I think that everything has drastically changed so suddenly all at once. And also because we need to keep in mind our flight and fight response, more often than not now, is activated, right? So we all have this inbuilt alarm system, right? That we all have this inbuilt alarm system that is called the flight and fight response, or flight and fight and freeze response. When we see a threat or danger, it becomes activated. So either we escape, or we avoid, or the body freezes whenever we know there is a threat. So right now, an alarm system, more days than not, more often than not, is activated. And that also contributes to a lot of fatigue and exhaustion and the slowness that I think that most of us have experienced as well.
Okay, and Silvana puts something very nicely into perspective here. If this was even 50 years ago, we would be communicating by letters or party line telephone and expensive long distance calls. We have to be grateful for all that we have. Focus on what we have and not this small sacrifice we're making right now. This too shall pass.
This is what we keep saying. Oh, definitely. This we keep saying. We are thankful that now more than ever, we have technology, and as I have always said, that social media especially is a new way of communication, and especially now it's tremendously helpful. I'm even actually, Kevin, wondering if this was 50 years ago in terms of writing letters, because writing letters involve, you know what I mean? You have to go to the post office, you need to mail it, you need to touch something, and then who goes?
Do you now kids
Who is the
kids may not remember what long distance was like when we were kids. But long distance in our house was a very special thing, and everybody had to be dead silent, and you could barely hear the person on the other end, and it was very expensive, relatively speaking. Now we make long distance calls. We don't even think anything of it. We can call someone in China, and it sounds like they're next door.
And it's free.
I love it. Okay, Silvana, thank you very much for that. I really, really love that perspective. Okay, let me go to this one here. How about this one? How do I deal with anxiety while awaiting test results? So yes, there are people who are fearful they may have contracted COVID, and so now they wait. They sit and they wait. And there's nothing worse than waiting for any test results, but especially this in a time of isolation.
And thank you for that question. So here's the thing. If the person is waiting for the test result and does not have symptoms, I mean, first of all, the person is isolated and quarantined. But within that context, let's say you don't have symptoms or mild symptoms that you can still function. Do your stuff at home. Engage in meaningful activities at home. Do not let it necessarily define you. If you're able to read, just do your reading. If you're able to watch your movie and enjoy your movie, engage, in healthy diet, engage in all your meaningful, healthy activity. Actually, it will be even more important to do so to really boost up the immune system. Now, I'm also safely assuming, if I'm not wrong, that if this person is waiting, it also means that the person is not in ICU in a hospital either. And that's helpful. That it helps to put it also into perspective as well, to know that, what, if right now I'm doing okay enough that I can still do my stuff, if I'm positive, well, I'm going to reach the hundreds of thousands in the world, if not more, that are positive. And we also know hundreds of thousands of people have recovered.
In fact, most people recover.
Most people have recovered. So, you know what? If you're doing fine right now at home, do your stuff at home. Absolutely. Do not let that deter you or even define who you are. If you're positive, well, obviously you're going to be more quarantined at home. You will recover like everyone else.
Let's put this, again, some context here. We're self-isolating and trying to stop this, not because we're afraid of everyone contracting COVID-19. we're afraid of the most vulnerable contracting COVID-19. Yes, you're going to hear all sorts of stories about, well, this was a perfectly healthy person, this was a young person, but by far the vast number of people have been people who are, immune compromised, older, pre-existing conditions. So, we're not hiding from COVID-19 by being isolated, because you can get that fear, right? You can get that fear inside of you. I'm sitting in here and I'm hiding, and COVID's out there and I don't want to get it. The vast majority of people either have no symptoms or have symptoms that require no medical treatment whatsoever. So keep this in mind. You're doing what you're doing for the good of humanity. You're not hiding from COVID-19, because as long as we know we're not hiding, then we're not worried about something being outside of our door, Katy.
Ken, I really love what you said, because the fact that we are home, it kind of can give us the wrong impression or change our perception into thinking that I'm hiding from it, when we actually know we might also actually be positive with COVID-19 and live with COVID-19. So we are not hiding from it. It's really, as you mentioned, the social responsibility. But you're right in that because we are at home and isolating, it gives us the impression or the assumption and the perception we are hiding from it, when again, we can definitely be living with it while at home. But it is really primarily, as we said, is a social responsibility. We might be entirely fine, but again, heaven knows, we can pass it on to a neighbor or a stranger or a family or a colleague, anyone. And that will be devastating. And I think that's the part of the illness as well, is kind of this double the fear, is not only the fear of me having it, but what if I have it and then also someone else has it? So it's really the guilt factor and all of those things.
All right. Well, Katy, again, I want to thank you so much for being with me this evening. You're always fun to talk to and always very informative. And I just really want people to make sure that they get the proper information